Tyler Durden character, another key element of his philosophy is embracing suffering and death as a part of life. So this goes back to the sort of last man way of viewing the world, or the way of living for the last man, which is to, in the face of death, to try and hide from death through pleasure and comfort, and sort of denying suffering and death as essential parts of life. Always trying to hide from it, always trying to escape it.
Yeah.
Whereas Tyler Durden, a big part of his philosophy is embracing the pain. There's a point in the movie where he sprinkles his chemicals on the hand of the narrator, and it gives him a chemical burn on his hand, which is obviously extremely painful, but he forces him to feel the pain. And obviously with the fighting as well, that's embracing pain. But there's definitely something about this philosophy of embracing suffering and embracing pain as parts of life, which enables us to maybe actualize our potential, or I guess, yeah, show what we have inside. What are your thoughts on that in terms of embracing suffering as part of life, and his philosophy towards death?
I mean, linking it back to, I think, Nietzsche, he kind of talks about like the last man kind of complex would lead to like nihilism or like hedonism, and like it seems like Tyler Durden is like a character that almost embodies the opposite of hedonism. It's kind of almost a pursuit of suffering without and avoiding pleasure, rather than pursuing pleasure at all costs and avoiding pain at all costs, as hedonism usually is. So it's kind of like a reaction to, well, I guess it links back to the narrator's like shadow. Like the narrator is a hedonistic consumer who wants to have these simple pleasures in life that give him no meaning, and then deep down this shadow embodies itself as Tyler Durden, and then goes completely opposite to hedonism and wants to like suffer. But I don't know what significance that has in terms of like what does it say about like the modern day America.
I think in terms of suffering, I think when you confront suffering directly, it gives you a sort of freedom that you can't have before. So initially, he has this nicely furnished apartment which gets burned down, and I think it goes on to say that it was Tyler Durden, or I guess the
Yeah,
narrator himself actually, who was the one that set
yeah,
off
it's burnt it.
like an explosion in the apartment. But then Tyler basically lives in this abandoned house where there's leaks everywhere. It's extremely uncomfortable. But living in that uncomfortable environment and letting go of all your vices, um, and living in that discomfort, sort of, it gives you the freedom in that it takes away the things that you thought you needed and you thought you rely on, and maybe it gives you this feeling of self-reliance and like agency over your own being, and
Mm.
maybe that links into being okay with death as well, because you're directly confronting the suffering of life rather than trying to run away from it, which makes you stronger and more free. So I think
Yeah,
it's certainly something freeing about confronting suffering head on. Like I noticed this in myself, like when I went through a phase of doing cold showers every day, and you get used to it and you sort of learn to enjoy the pain of it, because the cold, it's so uncomfortable and you still feel that discomfort, but you realize like this is as uncomfortable as it gets. Like this is discomfort, this is it, but you're there and you're actually fine. So you kind of learn that you're maybe stronger than you are, and you're not reliant on the materialistic things that you think you are, which gives you, yeah, that personal strength and confidence, and also a sense of freedom in yourself.
yeah, it kind of almost emphasizes your independence rather than being dependent on these like amenities that the modern world has, like hot showers, warm food, a nice bed.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you more independence. It strips you back. It strips you. Well, I guess it just strips you back down to what we used to be, like thousands of years ago, or even hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, I think this, yeah, this idea of like confronting and embracing suffering is, I think, is something we see in a lot of the figures that people look up to nowadays. So, I mean, if we look back, I think it's part of the Stoic philosophy as well. And Marcus Aurelius is not indulging and embracing discomfort as a voluntary discomfort as a way of becoming more developed. And we see more modern people like David Goggins, who takes it to the extreme in terms of embracing discomfort as what gives you that meaning in life. And the way, like, David Goggins' book is called Can't Hurt Me, so it gives you that
Yeah,
like feeling that you're actually indestructible when you don't need to be scared, and that gives you a certain amount of freedom when you are not scared of pain or even death. And another person who who kind of represents this to people is Jocko Willink. Like, he
yeah,
talks about how he gets up every morning, he gets out of his bed, and he, obviously you have the urge to stay in the comfort of your bed, but to go out and confront that suffering is what gives you that meaning to life. And like, that's something the same as Marcus Aurelius as well. He's got this passage from Meditations where he talks about how he doesn't want to get out of his bed because it's cozy, but he talks about how, like, as his purpose in this world is higher than the comfort and pleasure. He needs to go out and confront the world, and yeah, that's the right thing to do.
yeah,
Yeah, I think that's really what the embracing of death and suffering as an antidote to the consumeristic and comfort seeking philosophy that the narrator has. Um, yeah, I think that's Tyler's philosophy, and that's the value of it.
yeah. When you kind of reference David Goggins' book called Can't Hurt Me, it's a little bit funny because it's called Can't Hurt Me, but it's only the fact that we can't hurt him is only based on the sorry, we can't hurt him based on the fact that he hurts himself every day by doing these grueling challenges. It seems like a bit of a paradox initially, but I guess if you become your own worst enemy and conquer that enemy, then no one else can be a bigger enemy to you than yourself.